Hello everyone, it's Holly Signorelli, CPA and Wealth Manager, otherwise known as the Money Therapist, and this is Money with a Twist of Sublime, because everything comes back to money, whether it should or shouldn't. And today I have Dr. Kevin Light, a very good friend, and I'm going to go ahead and read this. He is a Dallas-based physician who teaches organizations and individuals how to feel like $1 million well into old age. And he's a speaker internationally and an author of his best-selling book, Outsmart Aging. So, tell us a little bit more about you.
Well, that was a nice introduction.
Yeah.
Makes me feel pretty special. So, a little bit about me. I'm a traditional doctor. I was an Air Force trauma surgeon and general surgeon. So, in that chapter of my medical life, I took care of very broken people.
Right.
And then I decided to do something else. So then I became a cosmetic surgeon, and I made people look nice and you know.
You feel good.
And so I that was my first jump into the anti-aging arena, in that I reversed the effects of aging physically. And then, as a natural transition, I'm thinking, well, how can I slow this burn rate down? How can I slow aging down? And what is it that people do wrong that accelerates their aging? And do we have to surrender to it? So I got into this age management stuff, and that's more of a buzzword. It's more like functional medicine or integrative medicine, and I've been doing that for about 11 years. And my last chapter is now, and I still see patients, but now my message is to corporate groups and organizations on little tricks that they may not be aware of and mistakes they're making, and how we can optimize the way they think and feel and just be more successful.
Yeah, I think this is a really important subject, because everywhere you go, there's so much illness and there's so much stress, which causes illness and manifests in your body in all different ways. You know, maybe just a headache or a stomach ache or something more serious. But I just feel like everywhere I go, I'm around unhappy people. You know, people, they're not enjoying their life. They're not enjoying all the parts of their life, and they're just blowing and going from one thing to another, and they don't have a plan, and they're just strung out. That's how I feel all the time.
Great observation.
Yeah.
And research validates that. People are more stressed than any other time in history.
Yeah.
Because we have 24/7 news cycles.
Yeah.
We have financial stress. We have new expectations of performance, and they never go to bed.
Yeah.
And we've been led to believe that stress is psychological. And most don't know that the psychological aspect of stress is secondary. The big hit is physically, how it just wears away, drop at a time, and over 10, 15 years, it completely bashes your performance.
Right.
And people don't know what they don't know. They've also been taught, well, this is what happens when you get older, so just surrender, you know.
I hate that. I really hate that, because people haven't. I've read some books and things about this, but we are so conditioned to believe, for example, that when we're 40, then suddenly we're going to have glasses. But that, you know, and because of that belief system, then you end up having glasses.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. And it's like, and I've read about cases where, like, when someone turns a certain age, like 60 or even 70, where people start to make jokes, or maybe they retire, and they say, oh, now you're going to, you know, start forgetting things, and then somehow it's like your brain responds to what you tell it to, because it can actually remap things, and then next thing you know, the person's forgetting things, and it's not because they're 60, it's because they've been told that now you're going to forget things.
These are average people living average lives, so they're going to have average fallout.
Yeah.
And what they don't know, or need to be made aware of, and what I try to do is say, don't be average. If you're an entrepreneur, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you're performance-based. And did you know we have little secrets, that your body has a dashboard that says, hey, something's wrong. You need to come and tune me up. It might be fatigue. It might be forgetfulness. Don't just accept it. Fix it.
Right.
We've been told before, you know, just surrender.
Yeah, it's just because of your age, or like one of my friends even said that the other day. She's like, well, we're getting older, and that just means everything in our body's getting old. And I was like, wow, just like giving into it.
If they could see my patients.
Yeah.
I mean, I have patients who are 85, sexually active, athletically active, crystal clear brains, and it's wonderful.
So tell us a little bit more about how it affects the body, or how it ages the body, or even creates, you know, disease in the body?
Well, the number one thing that affects your performance, and it's universal in our culture, is stress. And what stress does is it's designed to protect you from a lion or an intruder.
Right.
And this wiring's 200,000 years old. And the way it works is you see a lion, you turn on your stress response, which is a lot of hormones, and you either run away or you get eaten, and it's done. It's a 3-minute gig.
Yeah.
So fast forward, humans with their complex brains and complex lives, now we have the ability to anticipate.
Yeah.
So we don't live in the present, we live in the past or the future. And so our new lion is our job, our boss, our wives, our husbands, the commute.
Yeah.
Anything which is a threat, the brain is, we think we're pretty smart, but the brain reacts the same way as it's been wired to for 200,000 years. It sees that threat, and it turns on all those hormones. And the flip side of that is when those stress hormones are turned on to get you out of the way of the lion, it turns everything else that's not important off. So it turns off reproduction, turns off growth and repair, turns your immune system off. You don't need any of that when you're not trying not to be lunch.
Yeah.
So we'll put that on hold.
Right.
You can put it on hold for 10 minutes. You can't put it on hold for 10 years.
Yeah.
Slowly you start to fall apart, and that's what you see. So people start to fall apart around 45 or 50, and that's because they've been whittled down year after year after year by lifestyle choices, by all the kind of things, packaged food, anything that causes stress to your physiology, as well as mental stress.
Yeah.
So that's how it makes us sick. And stress is the number one cause that people get chronic disease. 75 to 80% of people who go to a primary care doctor, that problem is in some way related to stress.
Right.
Yeah. It's
because
amazing.
That's often what they say, like that. Oh, like if you have a heart condition or something, that it's stress that caused it. So it's like, we're doing it to ourselves.
It's all self-induced.
Yeah.
It's mostly to us. There are some things like chronic pain, which is stressful.
Yeah.
Diseases, but it's perception.
Yeah.
So we perceive things and we don't filter them right. So it's all self-induced. And one of the things I talk about in my book is I have a chapter on stress. It's, well, how do you fix it? I'm not going to change my life. No, but you can change your perception of it.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I was watching a show, and I wish I could remember this guy's name, but I think he's probably going to say it wrong, but he has a class like in Stanford or Harvard or something. It's a happiness class. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's the most popular class
He's
there.
on TED Talks.
And it's all about, he is, and it's all about your mindset, because the reason they say money doesn't make you happy or other things like that is because what makes you happy is to be in the moment, in the present, not in the past and in the fear and in the worry and the stress, and seeing the good in everything. And even things that may not seem like they're good, or even just some people get upset about a rainy day, but we need the rain. It's like some little things like that really can set people off.
The number one stressor is jobs. They've proven this time and time again. And the number one issue about jobs that makes it stressful is lack of control.
Yeah.
So if you perceive you have lack of control over your existence, a boss, the financial stability of the company, whatever, then that's a real big stressor, or the ability to do your best work.
Yeah.
So you translate that lack of control into anything you do, worrying about the future. You can't control the future,
Right.
One thing to make God laugh is tell him you have a plan, right? And so that's an old joke. So you can't control. You awfulize everything. 90% of what you think is going to happen never happens. So why bother? But we just sit there and we ruminate and we pretend
about
to plan,
what might happen,
and you have no control of it.
Yeah.
Once you understand that, then you go, I think I'll just stop doing that. Easier said than done. It's a long process, but that's the way you approach it.
I kind of learned that a long time ago when I read The 5 Agreements. Have you ever read that book?
Indeed.
I mean, that one really inspired me, because I realized how many times a day that when I was reading that you placed judgment on something that you didn't even know really what was going on, or like where you take things personally. So that made a profound change for me, because I don't make assumptions like that. I don't place judgments on things that people do. I mean, if somebody's not hurting me directly, then why do I care, what they're doing?
And that's a very good point, because psychologically we're wired toward negativity. It's called the negativity bias.
Yeah.
And the reason that happens is because if you're going to protect yourself, you're going to respond more immediately and more violently to a negative event versus positive, because it's survival. And so you want to make sure that, if you're going to get burned or eaten, you really jack it up. So we respond more viciously, more strongly, and more energetically to negative news, negative situations, and then we embellish and awfulize.
Yeah.
And that's just human nature. And if you know that, then when it happens, you go, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Let's not do that.
Yeah.
And that's the trick. You have to fool yourself.
Yeah. And this is why I don't watch the news and all the negative stuff. It's like, it's not that I don't want to know what's going on in the world, but sometimes, especially like with all this ISIS and stuff going on, so many people get consumed at that, and then they're missing out on the fact that there's actually much less war going on right now than if you think about in history with all these, worldwide, wars. And people, they just gravitate towards, because it's scary what they're doing. Don't get me wrong, it's
negative
real.
News sells.
But it's just, I know, I've been on the media where they actually edited me out because I was too positive. It's like,
that makes you boring.
I know, I guess so. In their eyes. But I just stay with my message that I believe is true. If they want to edit it out, then I'm okay with that, because I'm not going to buy into that just so I can be on
You're
it.
being authentic.
Exactly.
That's another thing. Be authentic.
Yeah.
But that's a whole new 2-hour talk.
Yeah. Yeah. I really wish that people could see the best in all things. So we're going to take a short break, and we come back, then maybe you can give us a few solutions to these problems.
I'd love to do that.
So this is Holly Signorelli, the money therapist, and this is Dr. Kevin Light, best-selling author and speaker. He's going to give us some good tips on how to anti-age and be happy. We'll be right back. Okay, everybody, we're back. Holly Signorelli, CPA, the money therapist, and Dr. Kevin Light. And we talked about all kinds of crazy stuff on the first half of this podcast. And we want to now learn about some solutions, because I want an age like feeling like $1 million.
Solutions. Well, let's see. We talked about stress, and the first thing, or some easy steps to attack stress. We're not going to change our lives, not realistically, but we'll change our perceptions. We'll get rid of toxic people, places, and things in our life.
Absolutely. A lot of people have guilt about that. They don't want to get rid of people in their life. And if somebody is toxic and they're bringing you down and kind of sucking the energy out of you, you don't have to be mean about it, but you shouldn't feel obligated to be around that person because they're hurting your inner being.
So relationships are a big thing. Finances, people are we rule our success, and the yardstick is how much money you make. And people are overly concerned, not everybody, because some people can't feed themselves, but after about, what's the statistic, $60,000 or $70,000, the improvement in happiness is minuscule. Okay.
Exactly, and people worry about money. In fact, just the more money they have, this is my experience with clients, and is that people, they just are so afraid of money. They worry, they stress, and when's it is the bottom going to fall out? So it's like they're not enjoying the money that they have. They might enjoy some of the toys that they have, but the money itself is, again, why it doesn't make you happy, because if you're going to worry about it, or you think that, I had this great year, I'm never going to have a great year like this again. Like, people say that all the time, and I'm always thinking, why would you not have another great year? You just had one, you know?
Exactly. And this is a perfect segue into the next idea, is that it's mindfulness. Now, that sounds like tree hugging crap, but mindfulness is pretty important.
Yeah.
Mindfulness, it simply means stay in the moment and enjoy the butterfly. Have you ever been talking to somebody and they've got 8 subtext conversations going on, and then you ask them a question and they say, sorry, I didn't hear a word you said.
Then they just pick up their phone and they start doing this while you're talking to them.
It happens all the time. So if you are mindful and you enjoy the smells around you and you're viscerally connected to all this stuff, you'll get far more joy and far less stress. Because if you're always on planning your future and doing all these, the reward is in the moment. This is all you have. Enjoy it. Cash in on it.
Yeah.
And so the mindfulness, and the next big thing is sleep. Oh my God.
Sleep. But before you say that, we go to the lake every weekend during the summer.
I see your Facebook pictures.
When I sit there, I am so at peace, because I like water, So sometimes when people are at the ocean or whatever, even just the lake, I just have peace there. It's like everything, the electronics are set aside, and we're just enjoying being there, and I always get creative. So it's kind of funny, but I still bring my laptop because if I get a creative moment, I want to be able to write it down.
That's different,
and people make fun of me, but I'm like, no. I'm a writer. If I get inspired, I've got to get it out of my head. So I'm not working. That's not work to me. But yeah, I think people need to kind of check out. And interestingly, we have an older boat. It's paid for. It's like from 1994. And so our friends wanted us to get a bigger boat, and I was like, I don't need that stress. I'm like, you know what? If I have some extra $40,000 that I don't need for something else, and I want to do that, maybe I will. But I'm like, I don't care. Like the whole idea is to do something that's, good for your soul, and you feel good, and you're checking out, but that doesn't come with a bunch of expenses that make it not fun anymore.
It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
My wife runs 3 of my businesses. I mean, she runs them. I'm the talent, whatever that means. So
You're
she
the
runs
face.
it, and so it would be easy to have a 24/7 dialogue in business, but we have very hard, firm rules that after such and such a time, business is done. Period. And if one of us slips, we do this.
You do, yep,
business is
no,
off.
not talking about it at night. Yeah, that'd be terrible. That is why couples like fight and stuff when they work together, and then it becomes a 24/7 thing.
It's like people who work at home. If you have a home office, you have to have hours.
Yeah.
You can't be in your jammies in your office at 8 o'clock at night. That's why you work at home. There's a benefit. Enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly.
Harvest that. Sleep.
Sleep. Let's talk about sleep, because sleep is a big thing. Everybody talks about not getting enough sleep. Everybody's tired, and I feel like way more than it used to be.
Much more.
So
And
what is that?
Sleep is an
Why?
epidemic. Well, one thing is we glorify sleep. Sleep's a badge of honor. I can get by in 4 hours sleep, and look at me. I'm important. I'm productive. I'm a mega person. Ooh, wow, look at all the things you can do.
Yeah.
The problem is that it's a positive feedback. So one of the biggest stressors besides your job is sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
And then with sleep deprivation, you get more stressed. And then as you get more stressed, you get less sleep, and on the wheel goes.
Yeah.
So you need to put a log in the middle of it. So what most people do wrong with sleep is you got to throttle down stress, because that's the number one offender, because you just sit there and think about what I got to do tomorrow. The other thing is you have to prepare for sleep. So electronic curfew, get rid of the cats that are jumping on your bed. Don't let the kids sleep in the bed with you. Anything that's going to interfere. If you've got a snoring spouse, move them to another room or go to a sleep center. Do something, because you can't. It's non-sustainable. They did a study.
What causes snoring? I really want to know.
What happens is, there's several reasons, but one of the ones that are correctable is, for some people, when they go to sleep, their tongue falls and literally stop breathing, and you'll hear them. They'll snore. They'll get louder and louder, and they'll go, and then they'll stop, and then they don't breathe again for a minute. So should they sleep on
their side
Well,
because they're sleeping on their back?
That's a solution, or sleeping sitting up, but usually they don't know that happens. It's their spouse that says,
Yeah, it's
you
the,
snore
it's
like
the
a farm
person
animal.
that's on the other end of it that has to tell you,
they're
and then
not
they're like,
aware.
I'm not doing that.
You have to tell them that's happening, and the big danger is cardiovascular disease skyrockets with people who have sleep apnea and snoring, because they quit breathing, and you get hypoxic.
Oh wow!
And so
over time,
over time, so I send a lot of people. If I hear that you're a snorer, you go to a sleep apnea thing, and they can maybe put a little brace in your mouth.
Yeah.
Or they can tell you to sleep on your side. Little simple solutions.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. Maybe lose 10 pounds.
Okay.
Anything. So sleep is a big one, and what a lot of people do when they can't sleep, typically they'll either have problems going to sleep or staying asleep. They'll wake up at 2 in the morning and they'll go through their list. And the way they
sometimes I do that, and because I'm so type A, yeah, exactly. And one thing that I've done is I've learned that if it is kind of a mindset, because I don't know that there's a really easy way to do this, but you really can't resolve anything at 3 o'clock in the morning. You really can't. How?
Before you go to bed, you write on a legal pad 10 things that are top of mind that you have to do tomorrow, and then you take that pad and you drop it on the floor, and you've given yourself permission to check out, because you've captured it. I don't need to think about it anymore.
Yeah,
it's not going anywhere, man.
Yeah.
So solve it tomorrow. Also, when you sleep, your subconscious solves lots of problems.
Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of times I'll come up from a really good sleep and I'll have like this inspiration, this idea that, that I want to do.
That's when your brain renews connections and it repairs itself.
Reboots it.
If you're not sleeping, you're not repairing. And chronic sleep, anything less than 6.5 hours of sleep a night, you are cognitively impaired.
Yeah.
Cognitively impaired.
Yeah.
Whether you can keep by on 4 or not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What other people do that's wrong is they'll take a drink before they go to bed, or they'll take an Ambien, and that'll get you to sleep. But it's not REM sleep. It's superficial sleep. So you wake up more tired, and so you're defeating yourself.
Yeah, I never take those because whenever I did years ago, it was awful.
Yeah.
It felt terrible.
So that's not the solution.
Yeah.
So that's the short and skinny on sleep. Sleep's a huge topic. You can spend days talking about that. The other thing is hormones.
Yeah.
So, hormones, bioidentical hormones are God's gift to medicine. I think it's wonderful that we've discovered them. You're not designed, you're not supposed to live past 40. Something's supposed to eat you, kill you, or you're supposed to get an infection. You have the bad manners of wanting to live past 40.
Yeah.
So all your support systems go, we're not designed for this. And so things start to fail. Also, walking around with fluorescent lights and dyed clothes and processed foods, they take their toll. So things start to spin out of control, but that's fixable. One of the things that leaves the party is hormones. And you don't have to go through a bad menopause. You don't have to go through andropause. You don't have to have low thyroid. Put it back up to where it was when you were 28 years old.
Yeah.
How do 28-year-olds feel and function? Like $1 million.
I don't think most people really know about the bioidentical. They still think it's a chemical, or they resist it somehow.
Well, there's a lot of urban myth out there that hormones.
Yeah.
But it's the same stuff that's been squirting around your body since you were a day old.
Exactly.
Okay? And it's at its peak when you're about 18 or 19, which, oh, by the way, is when you're at your physical best. And it's when all that stuff leaves, 45, 50, that you start to fall apart. It's the common sense test.
Yeah.
You don't even need science to figure that one out.
Right.
And so I've seen how powerful all this stuff was. Little teeny changes in some hormones, and a woman or a man will feel like they did when they were 40. The strongest thing that hormones do, besides all the other obvious things, is it's a big driver of your brain function.
Yeah.
Executive decision making, mood, affect, memory, that's all hormone driven. All hormone driven.
Yeah.
And those are the things that leave the party when your hormones drop.
Yeah, and then you feel all foggy and just not clear.
Little blue, little anxious, little shell shocked, Can't make decisions. That's hormones.
Wow.
It's not Alzheimer's.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's scary.